Hello everyone, thanks for stopping by the channel. Today's video is going to be on how to properly set up your desk. I'm Dr. Will Mitchell, a chiropractor at Impulse Health and Wellness. We're located in Surrey, BC. So why is ergonomics important? The big reason is that computer usage, including cell phones, laptops, as well as desktops, has significantly increased in the last number of years. In fact, the recent increased use in cell phones has led to a few new medical diagnoses, one being texter's thumb and the other being text neck. The use of cell phones puts us in a poor position for the stress on our spine and the muscles that surround our spine and can lead to poor posture positions. We know that poor posture leads to stress on the spinal joints. So that's going to be your neck as well as your mid back and your low back, and that it has been linked to issues such as headaches, neck pain, shoulder tension, back pain, and many more. So what is ergonomics? Ergonomics is actually an entire degree on itself. And that is basically how do we remove the stress from your spine or stress from your joints so that you can perform your job, your tasks in a safe and effective manner. And so really what it comes down to is designing and arranging the setup of your area so that it is most efficient and most safe for you yourself. So the goal with proper ergonomics is to reduce the stress on your spine as well as the joints of the peripheral, so your elbows, shoulders, wrists to be example. And the big reason is to prevent injury. So with this topic or this video, what we are not going to be covering. There are many different styles of keyboards and mice. These are usually industry specific, so that's why we're not going to get into a lot of the details on it, but there are a wide variety. So if the current one you're using is causing any sort of discomfort to your wrist or your hand, there are many other options available out there. There's also very different materials for the chairs. So there's leather, there's faux leather, there's fabric, there's mesh. We're not going to get into talking about the benefits of that. Really, it comes down to any sort of cost restrictions or limitations, as well as any sort of comfort yourself. We're also not going to be covering new technology. We'll touch on it a little bit, but this industry is changing very rapidly. And so there is a lot of new technology out there that you can easily find online with some searching. The goal of this video is to educate you on the basics so that you can take the information provided and do a very good job of setting up your home office or your desk if you don't have access to an ergonomist through work or anyone with any knowledge of that. So remember the key point here. The goal of a manufacturer is to sell products. That means that they're going to be doing some research on their end that's going to be using bell curves and your 90th percentiles in order to fit their material or their product to the majority of people. You may fall outside of that majority, and that's where you're going to need to seek other alternatives or additions, and we'll cover a few of those there. The big topic or area here is called anthropometrics, and that's how your body stature is. And so everyone is made differently, taller, shorter, wider, thinner, longer arms, longer legs, and all of that plays a role when we talk about materials as well as products, and then ultimately ergonomics. So the big thing to remember here is that you are an individual. And so we have to do all of these modifications to you specifically so that you can be suited the best case. Now, this is going to be one of the key slides here. And so we're going to spend a bit of time breaking this down. I made some points on the side for the ideal setup if you're using a chair as well as a fixed height desk. What we want to have happen is that your eye level is actually at the top of your monitor. We don't want your eyes in the middle of your monitor. And the reason for this is that you actually have a natural gaze downward. So if you line your eyes directly in line with the top, you will be looking down towards your screen. The next thing we're going to look at is going to be the elbow angle. You want it to be about 90 degrees, a little bit less, if a little bit more, if anything. So we don't want to be too flexed through the elbow. We want to have it, if anything, on a downward. And then the same is going to fall for the wrist as well, relatively straight. So we have to be careful if we're using a tray keyboard, as well as if we have any of the padded um, bars that go in front of the keyboard. But that will be something alternative outside of this. We can see that the hips we want to be 90 to 120 degrees, meaning the knees should be below your hips. And then ultimately we want the feet resting flat on the floor. Now, when we talk about adjustability, as we're going to see, that's going to be very important. The chair comes into role play here. Many are going to have things like lumbar support, but ultimately we want it to go up and down. We want the elbow rest to go up and down and even forward and back if possible, so that we can gain ourselves the proper positioning for our heights. I, in fact, like to have the person sit a little bit forward in the chair. That way you're actually using your muscles to support yourself. And there's ways you can position yourself just slightly forward so that you actually um, don't allow yourself to fall back into the lean. The next one here is going to be for standing desks. So this is a great new technology. I mentioned we won't go into all of the details of it, but this is a great new technology that allows for a change in position. So standing desks are great for people who end up spending most of their day, if not all of their day, at their desk. It allows you to change your position, turn on different muscles and support yourself, as well as let the other muscles that are majorly used in terms of sitting to rest. Here we can see a breakdown again of what proper we want to see, but it's all very similar. We want to have the eye at about the top of the screen again. In this case, we do want to have a slight tilt with the screen if it's just in order to keep your head in a proper position. Elbow should be at about that 90 degrees, if not a little bit more, and the tabletop should now be right about the wrist height so that we can support the wrist as they use the keyboard there. Great thing though with these is you can move them up and down if you want to have a different type of chair as we see in the picture there that doesn't quite have the full back. It's just more to kind of rest on your bum. And this is going to be really important. As we said, it's going to activate different muscles. It's going to improve your posture. And it's also going to be changing your muscles so you won't get as tired or fatigued and you won't begin to slouch as much through the day. Now, many people these days have multiple monitors. The key here is going to be that we want to set them up horizontally, so the one in the middle. We don't want to have them vertically on the left because, as you can think about for our previous two pictures, we're going to put a lot of strain on our neck and our back. How are we going to keep our eyes at the top of one screen if we're causing ourselves to look down so much? Now, our eyes naturally track left to right as we've learned to read, so this is a way to ultimately take the stress off of our spine and be monitoring multiple monitors at the same time. Many people use a multi-station setup where they have a laptop as well as a desktop monitor. And again, we want to keep those oriented into this horizontal plane. We do want to get a laptop stand so that we can get the monitor as close to the top in line with the desktop as possible, again, to reduce strain to the neck and to the upper back and allow our eyes to go naturally in a horizontal way. I didn't touch on it this part here. So if we are using a laptop solely, and we may come to a little bit of information later on about that, we do want to be using an external mouse and keyboard. Laptops are great for someone on the go who has to travel for work and pull up all the files and access their databases and various other reasons, but they are not good for long-term use. Very, very hard to set yourself up in a proper posture as well as a less stress type of posture. You're always going to be compensating one way, whether or not you're looking down, putting more stress on your back, or you've craned your shoulders in order to get your hands and arms up into the laptop. So you always, if you're going to be using a laptop for an extended amount of time, want to be able to hook into an external keyboard and mouse. The type of desk is going to be important as well. We covered a regular one and we covered a standing. Here's going to be a couple of different shapes. When we get into different shapes of desks, we also present some problems because we're going to be having multiple work surfaces. Usually in these cases, someone is using paperwork on one area, computer work on another, perhaps they have their phone set up on another side. So that means they're going to be turning. So ultimately the swivel chair comes into play. And when we're turned, we are craning the joints and creating more stress onto our neck, back, and other joints. Ultimately, we want to stay as close to square on as we can with whatever the task we're doing. So in the top corner, we see an L-shaped desk. I don't mind that. If you are able to put your paper beside, you can set it up properly where you can do some work and you're not going all the way to the left in the part of the desk that's jutting away from the wall. When you get into the U type of desk, it becomes a little harder. Most of the time, we're seeing that people do, in fact, um, have a discussion or have a conversation with someone, a client, through the part that's U, so parallel to the wall. And then they can go back and do their typing and then their paperwork on the backside. So ultimately, they can work. You just have to be a little bit careful on how you set yourself up. Now, we talked about a couple of accessories. So there are a variety of different chairs, as we talked about. There's even these new ones with the exercise ball built in. I don't think you need to go to that one permanently. Again, there's other little alternatives. One we'll talk about that we have our is what's called an air disc or a wobble cushion. Not only is it great for sitting on and using your posture muscles, it's very easily portable, so you can throw it in your car, can take it to work with you, but it also can provide some really good core exercises as well as balance work. So instead of spending all the money for one of these fancy ball chairs, you can get a lot of the same benefits with something like an air disc. And if you have any questions or want information about it, feel free to contact us and we can pass on what that is. In the middle, we see a lumbar support that can be added. So sometimes chairs don't come with changing lumbar support. Ultimately, we do want to keep a curve in the low back, and this is something that can be added. And usually it comes with a Velcro clip on the back that you can strap onto the back of your chair to create that curve in the low back. But ultimately, what we want to do in order to create the curve, if you can look down into my corner here, I'll try to demonstrate from the side. If I'm trying to do good posture, I don't want to just roll my shoulders back and sit up. That is not actually creating any change to the spine. That is actually just using your shoulders, as I can see here. What we want to do is actually squeeze our bum muscles and pull our bum back towards the chair. And you'll feel yourself kind of sit up a little bit straighter as you do this and ultimately create a curve in your low back. Now, we're not able to hold that all day, but that's going to be a great exercise to do throughout the day, as well as try to hold it as long as you can so that you develop those posture muscles and you're actually using your glutes, which are a much stronger muscle, to hold you in proper posture. And then, as we said at the bottom, if you are using laptops for a prolonged period of time, not only external keyboard, external mouse, but usually a stand as well, so that we can get that up to the proper height to take the stress off of our neck. So as we talked about with a number of these things, the biggest factor in terms of proper desk setup is adjustability. Now, ultimately, we can't always get adjustability with a regular desk. That's when you would go to a sit-stand desk, but you can get it in the other things as well. So you can get it from the chair, you can get it in the keyboard, you can get it in the mouse, you can get it from adding additional types of items that would raise or lower your keyboard, whether it's just a piece of wood or a couple books, or sorry, your monitor. There are little tricks and things that we can do in order to align everything properly to you. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to give us a call or stop by the office if you're in the area. We're located in Surrey, BC, and you can ultimately get in hold of us through our website, www.impulsehealth.ca.